Zoe had never imagined that silence could become something so important in her life. For most people, silence was something uncomfortable, something that needed to be filled quickly with words, music, or the endless noise of everyday living. People feared quiet spaces because they forced them to face their thoughts. But for Zoe, silence slowly turned into something else entirely. It became a quiet place where her heart could breathe, where her thoughts could rest, and where she could finally begin to understand herself. There was a time when Zoe's life had been filled with conversations. She enjoyed listening to people and learning about their lives, their struggles, and their dreams. She believed that every person carried a story worth hearing. Her kindness often showed itself in small gestures, a patient ear, a thoughtful word, or simply being present when someone needed support. Zoe believed that if she treated the world with honesty and compassion, the world would eventually return the same energy to her. Her dreams were simple. She never wanted fame, attention, or a life filled with luxury. Instead, she imagined something quiet and meaningful. She dreamed of building a life that felt stable and peaceful. She imagined waking up each day with purpose, working toward goals that mattered to her, and sharing her life with people who truly valued her presence. Those dreams were not loud or dramatic. They were gentle hopes that lived quietly in her heart. For a long time, life seemed to move in a steady rhythm. Days passed one after another, each carrying small responsibilities and simple joys. Zoe moved through these days with patience, believing that the future would slowly unfold into something beautiful. She trusted the process of life, even when things felt uncertain. But life rarely follows the path we imagine. Changes often begin in small, almost invisible ways. A conversation becomes shorter than usual. A familiar voice begins to sound distant. Someone who once listened carefully suddenly seems distracted. At first, Zoe noticed these small shifts but tried not to think too deeply about them. People become busy, she told herself. Everyone has their own struggles and responsibilities. Still, those small moments slowly added up. There were evenings when Zoe found herself sitting quietly, holding her phone and wondering whether she should reach out to someone or not. Sometimes she typed messages expressing how she felt, only to erase them before sending them. She didn't want to appear needy. She didn't want to become someone who demanded attention. So she began keeping more of her thoughts inside. At first, this change felt strange. Zoe had always believed in expressing emotions honestly. Keeping things to herself felt like locking parts of her heart behind a door. Yet with time, she noticed something unexpected. Silence protected her from certain kinds of pain. When she spoke less, people had fewer chances to misunderstand her words. When she expected less attention, she felt less disappointment when it didn't come. Silence slowly built a quiet wall around her emotions, shielding her from repeated hurt. This transformation did not happen overnight. It happened gradually, through many quiet moments of reflection. Zoe began noticing that people often spoke without truly listening. Conversations sometimes felt like empty exchanges of words rather than meaningful connections. People talked about their own lives but rarely paused to understand someone else's experience. For someone like Zoe, who valued depth and sincerity, this realization felt disappointing. But instead of becoming bitter, she became thoughtful. She began asking herself deeper questions about life. Why did people fear being alone? Why did silence make others uncomfortable? And why did society often treat constant noise as a sign of happiness? The more she thought about these questions, the more she realized that silence was not something to fear. Silence was simply a space where truth could exist without distraction. During quiet evenings, Zoe often sat near a window, watching the sky slowly change colors as the sun disappeared. Those moments felt peaceful in a way that was difficult to explain. The fading light reminded her that every day carried its own story, and every ending quietly prepared the world for a new beginning. In those quiet hours, Zoe's mind wandered through memories of her life. She thought about the person she had been and the person she was slowly becoming. At times, those reflections were painful. She remembered moments when she had trusted people who did not value her loyalty. She remembered times when she had tried to hold relationships together with effort that came only from her side. She remembered the quiet disappointment of realizing that some people had never truly understood her. But alongside those memories came important lessons. Zoe realized that kindness was never a weakness. The real mistake had been expecting everyone else to treat kindness with the same respect she did. Not everyone carried the same values, and not everyone recognized sincerity when they saw it. Understanding this truth helped her release a heavy burden she had carried for a long time. Instead of blaming herself for the way others behaved, she began accepting that some things in life were simply beyond her control. People make choices based on their own perspectives, their own fears, and their own priorities. Once she accepted that reality, something inside her began to change. Zoe started focusing less on what she had lost and more on what she still possessed. She still had her strength. She still had her ability to care deeply. She still had her dreams, even if they had been temporarily overshadowed by disappointment. And most importantly, she still had time to shape her future. Silence gave her the clarity to see these truths clearly. Without constant distractions, she could hear her own thoughts more honestly than ever before. She began understanding her emotions instead of suppressing them. She allowed herself to feel sadness without pretending everything was fine. She allowed herself to acknowledge pain without believing it defined her. This emotional honesty became the beginning of her healing. Days slowly turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. During this time, Zoe began rebuilding her life in small but meaningful ways. She started setting gentle goals for herself. They were not grand ambitions designed to impress others. Instead, they were personal commitments that helped her grow stronger each day. Some mornings she woke up early to watch the sunrise. The quiet beauty of those moments reminded her that the world always offered new beginnings, even after the darkest nights. Other days she spent time exploring interests that once felt distant from her routine. She read books that expanded her understanding of life. She wrote down her thoughts in long reflections, allowing her emotions to flow freely onto the page. These activities helped her reconnect with parts of herself that had been hidden for too long. Zoe began realizing that happiness did not always come from external validation. It could also grow from self-respect, patience, and the quiet satisfaction of personal growth. As her confidence slowly returned, silence began to feel less like isolation and more like companionship. It was during these moments of quiet reflection that Zoe discovered something powerful about the human spirit. People often believe that strength is loud. They imagine strength as bold actions, dramatic victories, or public displays of courage. But Zoe realized that true strength is often quiet. It appears when someone continues moving forward despite disappointment. It appears when someone refuses to let pain destroy their kindness. And it appears when someone chooses to grow instead of becoming bitter. Zoe had begun walking that quiet path of strength. Silence had become her teacher, guiding her through lessons that words alone could never explain. And slowly, day by day, she started to realize that the silence she once feared had become the space where her strongest self was being formed. Zoe slowly began to understand something that many people spend years trying to learn. Life was not meant to be a constant stream of comfort. It was a journey filled with moments of clarity, confusion, joy, and pain. Each experience carried a lesson, and those lessons slowly shaped a person into who they were meant to become. For a long time, Zoe had believed that happiness came from having people around her. She thought that the more connections she had, the fuller her life would feel. But as time passed, she discovered that not every presence brings peace, and not every crowd removes loneliness. There had been moments in her life when she was surrounded by people yet still felt invisible. That realization had once hurt her deeply. But now, looking back through the quiet lens of reflection, she understood something different. Being alone was not always a tragedy. Sometimes, solitude was the place where a person discovered their true strength. Silence became the environment where Zoe could finally hear her own voice. At first, her thoughts were scattered and uncertain. She questioned many things about herself. Was she too sensitive? Did she care too much? Had she expected too much from people? These questions echoed in her mind many nights. But slowly, the answers began to appear. Zoe realized that caring deeply was never a flaw. In a world where many people protected themselves by becoming distant or indifferent, her ability to feel strongly was actually a rare quality. It meant she had a heart capable of genuine empathy. That understanding changed the way she viewed her past. Instead of seeing her experiences as failures, she began to see them as lessons. Every disappointment had taught her something valuable. Every moment of silence had helped her listen more carefully to her inner world. One evening, while watching the sunset from her window, Zoe felt an unexpected sense of calm settle within her chest. The sky was painted with soft shades of orange and gold, slowly fading into deeper colors as the sun disappeared. In that quiet moment, she realized something powerful. The sun did not fight the night, it simply allowed the day to end, trusting that another sunrise would eventually come. That simple rhythm of nature mirrored the changes happening inside Zoe's life. She understood that some chapters of her life had naturally reached their ending. Certain relationships had faded, certain expectations had dissolved, and certain dreams had transformed into something new. Instead of resisting those endings, she began accepting them with quiet dignity. Acceptance did not mean she had stopped caring, it simply meant she had learned when to release what was no longer meant for her. This realization brought a new kind of freedom. Without the weight of constant expectations, Zoe felt lighter. Her mind felt clearer, and her heart felt calmer. She no longer measured her worth by how many people noticed her presence. Instead, she began measuring her life by something far more meaningful: growth. Each day became an opportunity to improve herself, even in small ways. Some days she learned patience. Other days she practiced forgiveness, both toward others and toward herself. Forgiving herself was one of the most important steps in her journey. For a long time, Zoe had carried quiet guilt about things she could not control. She blamed herself for relationships that had faded and conversations that had gone wrong. She wondered whether she could have behaved differently, spoken differently, or tried harder. But silence helped her understand a simple truth. No one controls every outcome in life. Sometimes people grow apart despite sincere effort. Sometimes paths separate even when both sides once cared deeply. That did not mean Zoe had failed. It simply meant that life was constantly evolving. When she finally allowed herself to accept that truth, a heavy burden lifted from her heart. From that moment forward, Zoe decided to focus her energy on something new, building a life that felt meaningful to her. She began paying attention to small details that once escaped her notice. The early morning air felt refreshing and full of possibility. The quiet rhythm of her daily routine brought a sense of stability she had once overlooked. Instead of waiting for dramatic moments of happiness, Zoe began appreciating simple experiences. A peaceful walk during a quiet evening. The comfort of reading a thoughtful book. The satisfaction of completing a small personal goal. Each of these moments reminded her that happiness was not always loud or extraordinary. Often, it appeared quietly, hidden within ordinary parts of life. As time passed, Zoe also noticed something else changing inside her. Her confidence was slowly returning. Not the loud, attention-seeking kind of confidence that some people displayed, but a quiet confidence that came from understanding herself more deeply. She trusted her instincts more. She trusted her ability to handle challenges. Most importantly, she trusted her own worth. This new sense of self-respect influenced the way she interacted with the world. She no longer chased approval or validation from others. If someone appreciated her presence, she welcomed it with gratitude. If someone failed to recognize her value, she simply moved forward. Silence had taught her that not every voice deserved her attention. This realization protected her energy in ways she had never experienced before. There were still moments when old memories resurfaced. Sometimes Zoe remembered conversations that once meant a lot to her. Sometimes she thought about people who had once been important parts of her life. But those memories no longer carried the same weight. Instead of feeling pain, she felt gratitude for the lessons they had brought. Every experience, both good and difficult, had shaped the person she was becoming. Without those experiences, she might never have discovered her inner strength. One night, while sitting beneath a quiet sky filled with stars, Zoe felt something she had not experienced in a long time. Hope. Not the naive kind of hope that expects life to be perfect, but a mature hope that understands challenges are part of the journey. She realized that her story was far from finished. There were still dreams waiting to be explored. There were still goals she could pursue. And somewhere in the future, there might even be people who truly appreciated the quiet strength she carried. But whether those people appeared or not, Zoe knew something important. She would be okay. Because silence had already given her something priceless. It had helped her build a relationship with herself. And once a person learns to stand comfortably in their own presence, the world becomes a much less frightening place. Zoe looked up at the night sky and took a slow, peaceful breath. For the first time in a very long while, she felt completely at peace with who she was. Silence was no longer something she feared. It had become the place where her strongest self had quietly grown. As the weeks slowly passed, Zoe noticed that her perspective on life was changing in ways she had never expected. The world around her was still the same streets, the same sky, the same routines, but something inside her had shifted. It was as if silence had quietly rearranged the pieces of her heart, placing them in a stronger and more meaningful order. For the first time in a long while, Zoe began to feel a sense of control over her own life. Before, she had often waited for things to happen. She waited for conversations, for reassurance, for people to show they cared. Her happiness had been tied to the responses of others. When people were kind, she felt secure. When people were distant, she felt uncertain. But silence had slowly broken that pattern. Now Zoe understood that waiting for validation from others could keep a person trapped in endless disappointment. The world was too unpredictable to depend entirely on the actions of others. Real strength came from something else. It came from learning how to create your own peace. This realization did not arrive all at once. It appeared slowly, through small moments of reflection that accumulated over time. Each quiet evening, each calm morning, each moment of solitude added another layer of understanding. Zoe began to realize that her life was still full of possibilities. Just because some chapters had ended did not mean the entire story was finished. In fact, many of the most meaningful journeys begin after moments of loneliness and self-discovery. One morning, Zoe woke earlier than usual. The sky outside was still dim, and the world felt calm in a way that only early mornings can offer. She stepped outside and watched as the first rays of sunlight slowly appeared on the horizon. The sunrise felt symbolic. It reminded her that every day carries the potential for renewal. No matter how difficult the previous day had been, the world always offered another chance to begin again. Standing there in the quiet light, Zoe felt something inside her settle peacefully. She realized that she no longer wanted to live her life defined by past disappointments. Instead, she wanted to focus on what she could build from this moment forward. From that day on, Zoe made a quiet promise to herself. She would keep moving forward, not in a rushed or desperate way, but steadily, patiently, and with intention. She started focusing on small improvements in her daily life. Some days she dedicated time to learning new things. Other days she spent time organizing her thoughts and planning goals for the future. These goals were not about impressing anyone else. They were personal commitments to growth. For Zoe, growth meant becoming stronger emotionally, wiser in her decisions, and more confident in her own voice. As she continued this journey, she noticed another change within herself. Her relationship with silence had evolved even further. Silence was no longer just a place for reflection. It had become a source of inspiration. When the world grew quiet, her mind became clearer. Ideas appeared more easily, and her thoughts flowed without pressure. She began writing more often, capturing the lessons she had learned during her journey. Writing became a powerful tool for her. Through words, she could express emotions that once felt too complicated to explain aloud. She could transform painful memories into meaningful insights. Each page she filled felt like another step toward understanding her life more deeply. Sometimes she wrote about resilience. Sometimes she wrote about forgiveness. And sometimes she simply wrote about the quiet beauty of personal growth. As Zoe continued developing this habit, she realized that her experiences could eventually help others who were going through similar struggles. There were many people in the world who felt misunderstood, overlooked, or alone. Perhaps one day, her story could remind someone that silence does not have to be a prison. It can also be a place where strength begins. This thought gave her a renewed sense of purpose. Even though she spent much of her time in solitude, she no longer felt disconnected from the world. Instead, she felt quietly connected to the universal experiences that all people share: hope, disappointment, growth, and healing. Life was no longer something that happened to her. It was something she was actively shaping. Of course, the journey was not always easy. There were still days when doubt tried to return. On certain evenings, memories would resurface unexpectedly, reminding her of moments when she had felt hurt or rejected. But now Zoe responded to those memories differently. Instead of letting them control her emotions, she acknowledged them calmly. She reminded herself that every experience had contributed to her growth. Pain had taught her awareness. Disappointment had taught her resilience. And silence had taught her self-respect. Each lesson had helped her become stronger. One evening, while walking beneath a sky filled with soft clouds, Zoe noticed something interesting about her thoughts. She was no longer asking the same painful questions she once repeated endlessly. She no longer asked why certain people had changed. She no longer asked whether she had been enough for others. Those questions had slowly faded away. In their place appeared new questions, questions filled with possibility rather than doubt. What kind of future did she want to build? What kind of person did she want to become? How could she use her experiences to grow stronger and wiser? These questions energized her in a way that surprised her. Instead of feeling stuck in the past, she felt curious about the future. That curiosity sparked motivation. Zoe began setting clearer goals for her life. She wanted to continue growing emotionally and mentally. She wanted to pursue passions that gave her a sense of meaning. Most importantly, she wanted to live a life guided by authenticity rather than fear. For too long, she had shaped parts of her behavior based on what she believed others expected. Now she wanted to live honestly, without pretending to be someone she was not. This decision gave her a new kind of freedom. She spoke when she truly had something meaningful to say, and she remained silent when silence felt more genuine. She invested her energy in things that mattered rather than chasing approval. Slowly, the quiet strength she had developed began influencing every part of her life. People who encountered Zoe could sense that calm confidence. She was not loud or dramatic, but there was something steady and grounded about her presence. It was the presence of someone who had faced inner storms and learned how to remain standing. As time continued moving forward, Zoe realized that silence had never been her enemy. It had been her guide. Through silence, she had faced her fears, understood her emotions, and rebuilt her sense of self. And perhaps the most beautiful part of her journey was this: the silence that once felt lonely had transformed into a space where hope quietly lived. Zoe no longer feared quiet moments. Instead, she welcomed them. Because within that silence, she had discovered a truth that many people search for their entire lives. True strength does not come from the noise of the world. It grows quietly inside the heart of someone who refuses to give up on themselves. Time continued moving forward, just as it always does, quietly and without asking anyone for permission. Days blended into weeks, and weeks slowly turned into months. Yet the passing of time no longer felt heavy to Zoe the way it once had. Instead, it felt like a steady current carrying her toward a future she was slowly beginning to understand. The person she had been before felt distant now, almost like a memory from another chapter of her life. Back then, she had often searched for reassurance from the outside world. She had looked for confirmation that she mattered, that her presence made a difference, that her voice was worth hearing. When those confirmations failed to appear, doubt quietly filled the empty spaces. But silence had taught her something life-changing. A person's value is not determined by how loudly the world acknowledges them. Sometimes the strongest people are the quiet ones, the ones who keep growing even when no one is watching. Zoe had become one of those people. Her days were no longer filled with the anxious need for constant interaction. Instead, she focused on building a life that felt meaningful from within. She learned to appreciate routines that gave her stability. Simple habits slowly formed the foundation of her new life. Each morning she woke with a calm sense of intention. Some mornings she spent time reflecting on what she had learned through her journey. Other mornings she simply allowed herself to sit in the quiet and observe the world waking up around her. The sound of distant birds, the gentle warmth of sunlight, and the peaceful rhythm of early hours reminded her that life was always moving forward, and so was she. Zoe had also begun thinking about the future in a way she never had before. Before, the future had always seemed like something uncertain, something that depended heavily on the presence of other people. Now she realized that her future belonged primarily to her. It was something she could shape through patience, effort, and belief in herself. This understanding gave her a new kind of motivation. Instead of feeling lost, she began setting clear intentions for the life she wanted to create. She wanted to continue learning, continue growing, and continue discovering what she was capable of becoming. She no longer feared walking her path alone if necessary. Because now she knew something important. Walking alone does not mean being weak. Sometimes it means being brave enough to follow your own direction. There were still moments when Zoe remembered the difficult days that had once defined her life. Memories of confusion and quiet heartbreak occasionally surfaced, but they no longer held power over her emotions. Those memories had transformed into reminders of how far she had come. Every challenge she had faced had helped shape the resilience she now carried inside her. And that resilience had become her greatest strength. One evening, Zoe found herself walking through a quiet area as the sun slowly dipped below the horizon. The sky stretched above her in beautiful shades of orange and deep purple, creating a peaceful atmosphere that seemed almost symbolic. She paused for a moment and watched the fading light. There was something comforting about the way the day ended. The sun did not resist the coming night. It simply allowed the darkness to arrive, trusting that morning would return again. In that moment, Zoe realized how similar her journey had been. There had been times when darkness had surrounded her life, moments when uncertainty and silence felt overwhelming. But just like the cycle of day and night, those difficult moments had never lasted forever. Eventually, light always found a way back. The realization filled her with quiet gratitude. She had survived moments she once thought would break her. She had faced loneliness that once felt unbearable. And through all of it, she had discovered parts of herself that she never knew existed. Courage, patience, self-respect. These qualities had grown silently within her, strengthened by every challenge she had endured. As Zoe continued walking beneath the evening sky, she noticed something else about herself. She no longer felt the need to rush through life. In the past, she had often worried about whether she was moving fast enough, achieving enough, or meeting the expectations of others. But now she understood that life was not a race. It was a journey meant to be experienced step by step. Growth takes time. Healing takes patience. And meaningful change often happens quietly. This realization allowed her to breathe more freely. She began living each day with a sense of calm purpose rather than pressure. Instead of comparing her progress to others, she focused on becoming slightly stronger and wiser than she had been the day before. And that was enough. Zoe also noticed that her perspective on relationships had changed. She no longer believed that every person she met needed to remain in her life forever. Some connections were temporary, and that was perfectly natural. What mattered most was the quality of those connections, not the quantity. If someone entered her life with genuine kindness and respect, she welcomed them warmly. But if someone treated her presence lightly, she no longer fought to keep their attention. Silence had taught her that her energy was valuable. And she had learned to protect it. This new mindset brought an incredible sense of peace. Instead of feeling drained by constant emotional effort, Zoe now invested her time and energy in things that truly mattered to her: personal growth, meaningful goals, and moments of quiet reflection. Her life was no longer defined by what she lacked. It was defined by what she was building. One night, as she sat quietly beneath a sky full of stars, Zoe allowed herself to reflect on everything she had experienced. The journey had not been easy. There had been confusion, sadness, and moments when the future felt uncertain. But there had also been growth. Looking back, she realized that silence had never truly been her enemy. It had been her teacher. Silence had forced her to confront truths she once avoided. It had helped her listen to her own heart more carefully than ever before. And most importantly, it had guided her toward the strongest version of herself. Without silence, she might never have discovered the depth of her resilience. She might never have learned how powerful self-belief could be. As these thoughts settled gently in her mind, Zoe felt a quiet sense of pride. Not the kind of pride that demands recognition from others, but the kind that grows from personal understanding. She had endured. She had grown. And she had refused to give up on herself. That realization filled her with calm confidence about the future. Life would still bring challenges, that much she knew. No journey is completely free from obstacles. But now she faced those uncertainties with a steady heart. Because she had already proven something important to herself. Even when the world grows quiet, even when voices fade and paths change, a person still has the power to keep moving forward. The strength to continue exists inside each of us, waiting patiently to be discovered. Zoe looked up at the endless night sky and allowed herself a small, peaceful smile. For the first time in a very long time, she felt completely comfortable with who she was. Silence was no longer something she feared. It had become the place where her true voice had finally been heard. And as she continued walking forward into the quiet future ahead, Zoe carried with her a simple but powerful truth. Sometimes the greatest friendships we form in life are not with other people. Sometimes the greatest friendship is the one we build with ourselves. And once that friendship exists, no silence in the world can ever make us feel truly alone.